This is the Recovery Lab.
Here we dive deep into the struggles, victories, and hope that stem from recovery.
No shame, no judgment, just truth, grace, and inspiration.
Let's walk this road together.
All right. Welcome back, guys. I'm David Sugg from Recovery Lab. Behind the controls, Daniel Anderson.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, we're missing our co-host, Bren Knox, this week. She's out, but she will be back next time.
That's right.
We are here this week with Representative Sam Creekmore out of New Albany. Super excited. We've been trying to get you on for a while. I talked to you, I don't know, maybe 9 months ago, reached out, and we almost had a date scheduled, and then got everybody's lives busy, the studio's busy, you're busy. Just thank you so much for taking the time to come in here and talk about some of the stuff that you got going on, some of the work that you're doing.
Glad to do it. Glad to be here. Glad we can work it out.
Yeah, really, really cool. But we were just talking before about some of the stuff that you're into. Before we get into that, I want to know, like, where are you from? Like, tell us a little bit about your background, your history, just general stuff.
I'm from New Albany. My father's a physician, just recently retired. And so I kind of grew up in the medical field. Uncle's doctor, my daughter-in-law's in med school. So been part of that. I'm a landscape architect by trade. But I'm very familiar with the medical industry and love New Albany. It's like a Mayberry town. It's just it's very, very good to grow up in.
And you've been represented now for 7 years?
Yeah, this next session will be my 7th session.
I gotta know what brings a guy like you to your history, your background. Landscape architecture is pretty cool. The plants don't talk back. It's got to be a good gig. What draws you into public servitude? That's got to be tough.
I've always been a leadership guy, and then that leads you to servanthood, and I try to be that servant leadership position, and so I got put on the school board. It was a appointed position, and then our House member from New Albany, Margaret Rogers, was not going to run again. She'd been here, I think, 12 years, and I was like, this is another way I could help, not just our schools, but the New Albany and Union County community. So, it just seemed to be the right timing. I had our youngest child was a senior in high school and was going on to college. So we had the empty nest. It's like, I can make this work, I think, if I can get elected. So that kind of led me down this trail.
Do you like running? Do you like doing the stomping?
Not really.
Yeah. Some people love it. You can tell some people just love it. Yeah.
I mean, I had an opponent. I had to go door to door, and I did. And you just kind of make yourself do it. And it was rewarding once you got into it, but you just had to mentally get ready. It's work.
Yeah. So what are some of the things you've worked on in the past 7 years? You're doing a lot now, but leading up to that, what are some of the things you've done?
Your first year or two, you're just learning where the bathrooms are, and I wasn't just real vocal. I knew, the flag issue was a big issue to me, and I know it can still somewhat be divisive, but I thought Mississippi could do better with a new flag. So that was kind of an issue going into it, and I was proud to be part of that very first meeting about changing the flag. So that was in my first year. Of course, COVID was that year, and it was just, but Speaker Gunn was the speaker then, and you got to make a list of your committees, and I made a list, not really knowing what they were necessarily all about, but Speaker Gunn put me on Judiciary B, and that's where we review a lot of laws and law enforcement. Nick Bain from Corinth was the chairman. And so we started looking at a lot of mental health issues in Jud B, particularly mental health patients who would end up in jail. Law enforcement, first responders be the first ones on the scene, not knowing what to do with them, end up in jail. So we had a hearing on, it was on mental health and drug addiction. And I remember this was out of session, telling my wife, Warner, I said, I really don't want to go to this hearing because it's going to be just heartbreaking stories and just just tough issues. And, our son was going to Mississippi State as a freshman. And, of course, by the end of the hearing, I was scared to death about what all he was going to encounter. I was just learning what fentanyl was and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So at the end of the hearing, Nick Bain, the chairman, says, all right, we're going to put together a subcommittee, and Creekmore is going to chair it. Had not asked me, had not,
thrown in.
And so that began my journey right there on many things that we've legislated through mental health and drug addiction. And there began my journey. I did not choose it.
Yeah.
It kind of chose me.
God spun around and said, pointed you in that direction. This is it.
It really did.
What you're going to do.
And little did I know that second year that I would be, 5 years later, just working on legislation and doing things in that space.
And in that time, what have you learned about some of the mental health and addiction crises that are happening in Mississippi?
Well, how integrated the two are, mental health and addiction, and how self-medicating for mental issues can lead to addiction issues, and then how it's more, some people just can't help it. They do this drug one time, and chemically they just become dependent on it, and it's not necessarily a moral failing from that individual. It's a dependency that they have trouble breaking. Yeah. And the stigma that comes with mental issues, it's we need to do better, and just having these conversations like we're having today, it's okay to seek help. It's okay to get a mental checkup, just like a physical checkup. Our brains need to be mentally evaluated. And so a lot of that, we've tried we've had hearings, we've had legislation, having these podcasts, just to have these conversations that it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to ask for help.
Has there been anybody in your personal, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine, but has there been anybody in your personal life where you've got some real world experience where you kind of have seen addiction rear its ugly head and it's kind of got you more fired up about it than just a bystander? Or have you been pretty much unaffected by some of the hardships that come with addiction?
Yeah, well, yes. It's, I've had, my grandfather was a World War II veteran, alcoholic. Yeah. And actually became homeless at some point. And of course, growing up, we were close, and then all of a sudden we weren't close. And so just seeing that part of it, and not understanding, and I loved him to death.
Absolutely.
But I remember when we would go visit. They lived in Conyers, Georgia, and this, maybe it's not funny, but it's funny to me now looking back. I would be maybe 10 years old. Yeah. And one of the things, he'd say, all right, let's go for a ride. And he'd put me in the car driving, and with our first stop would be at the convenience store where he'd buy a 6-pack, and he would drink, and I would drive around as a 10-year-old in Conyers, Georgia.
Drinker.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. So, that's a funny memory, which I didn't think anything of. I just wanted to drive. But now looking back, I say, well, there were some issues there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that part. But, and then, you hear the stories in some of these hearings we have where people are seeking help. So those have inspired me too.
Yeah. But guys coming home from war, World War II, and having drink kind of take control of their life and wreck their life, be homeless is horrible. But where we're going now in 2025, where we've got, overdoses happening, accidental overdoses, where we've got kids on baby changing stations that are getting poisoned from fentanyl, or we've got people who don't even know what they're taking and they're dying. They're first responders who stick their hand in somebody's pocket and they die. Like, it's a very different scene. Not to minimize what those guys went through, but just like to fast forward 70 years, it's nuts out there. Yeah. And so what is Mississippi doing right with that fight? Like, what are we doing well right now with the current events that are happening now? Well,
I mentioned the stigma earlier, and I've kind of fell prey to this too. The fentanyl strips. It was illegal in Mississippi,
right?
And I remember thinking back, why do we need fentanyl strips? But as I got more into it and understood, and especially with a child going off to be a freshman, let's make these things available.
Right.
Because just like you mentioned, one pill can end your life, with fentanyl and all. And so, and pill presses, we've made those where they have to be registered. It just made it more difficult for some of these dealers who make their own pills.
Yeah.
So we've done that right. And so we've destigmatized a lot of the paraphernalia that help.
Okay. Yeah.
And the Narcan and all that stuff, making it more available.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we need to continue going down that road. And then we kind of talked before we got on the air about the Ibogaine, and I see that as a real game changer for Mississippi.
Yeah.
And for us to be one of the pioneer states to do that, which is rare for us.
Right.
You know, we're usually last to the table. But if we can get this done, partner with Texas, partner with Arizona, and have a real solution that the results are just off the chart, better than any other method we have out there to overcome addiction, to overcome PTSD.
Yeah. And
we can dive deeper into that if you want to, but that's, that I feel like we can get this done. And especially we got this opioid money from the settlements coming in. And so I'm asking for $5 million of that to go toward this Ibogaine treatment.
Since you were talking about the opioid stuff, I got to know why. We've been sitting on money for a long time. The money's been sitting there for a long time. Why has it not getting in the hands of the people who are living in the trenches? I mean, podcasts like us or nonprofits like that are out there that are doing the work of trying to get messaging out about there is hope. Here's some solutions. Like they just haven't come out. Like what is it about?
That's a good question. The legislative process is not pretty. Mm-hmm. When the Attorney General came to met with the Speaker and I on that, we got this money coming. Of course, I met with him. Let's work on a bill that can disperse this money. And the idea was to get it done early in the session, make it a law upon passage of the bill. And the House and Senate got all caught up in this income tax deal, and it just kind of took all the air out of the room. Good bills like that opioid settlement became very hard to pass.
Yeah.
And it's not any one person's fault. It just became kind of the environment of the legislature. It was just hard to work. Even Republicans with Republicans.
Yeah.
So that's really what took so long. It's just other issues got involved and diluted the process. With the issue with the bill, creating the Opioid Council there was no issue. It was easy to pass. And I don't know, somehow it got changed instead of going into effect on passage, like most of them do, July 1st became the bill. So that drug it out, just the legislative process. But as soon as we got it, it became law. The council met, I think September 19th were the application deadlines. We've reviewed all those. And so hopefully that money, it'll be session again January before that money goes out.
Right. So for the people who don't know what we're talking about, but the opioid settlement money, can you describe a little bit about what that is and where it came from and what it's for?
Of course, it's well documented on how opioids and the terrible effect they've had on all states. In 2014, 2015, the Attorney General joined a lawsuit and helped lead it against these pharmaceutical companies who sold opioids to states like Mississippi. Won the lawsuit, and then money starts trickling in. And in the lawsuit, there are 3 buckets of money. 70% of it is to go to opioid abatement, and that's what these grant applications we've been reviewing. 70% of that money will go to these people. These, like you mentioned, these people in the trenches who are treating addiction, serving people right now. 15% goes to cities and counties. So any cities and counties that joined in, they're getting money. For instance, Lee County in North Mississippi will get about $1 million. And then New Albany is getting, I think, $340,000. There are no guidelines as of right now for that money. So we got cities and counties that are, I think only 1% of it has been used, that are sitting on money. And so I plan on authoring guidelines to help these cities and counties on where they can spend the money particularly for opioid abatement, because people have died for this money. I mean, families have
Blood
been
money.
ripped apart.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so it needs to go
Yeah.
to help solving this issue.
Yeah.
And then another 15% is going to the legislature for us to decide where to go. And I want to use some of that for the Ibogaine process.
And how much money are we talking about over the course of, I think it's a 10 or 15 year period?
The total, yeah, you're right. It's about $400 million.
$400 million coming to the state of Mississippi.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a lot of money. And so you're talking about taking 1% of this, or even less than 1%, to apply to a treatment that might help really advance some people suffering from trauma related issues, and addiction, and that is called Ibogaine.
Ibogaine.
And so you've heard about this from we were talking about before. Where'd you hear about Ibogaine?
Well, it's funny because it's all related. I mentioned it was a God thing. You put it right in front of me. I was writing and studying the opioid settlement bill that created this council. It was a Saturday, and my phone dings, and it's announcing a podcast, a Joe Rogan podcast.
And Google doesn't miss a thing, dude. It doesn't miss a thing.
Excuse me for the call. So I just tap it, listen to it, and then here's this guy, Brian Hubbard. I can tell he's brilliant just for his vocabulary, but he's kind of a slow talker, very interesting fellow. And then you have this Rick Perry, the former governor of Texas, conservative, and they're talking about a psychedelic.
Yeah.
And then they go into all these, how it's just really changed people. And I do believe God, while I was studying opioids, sent me that podcast. And so I reached out to Brian, and we talked on the phone. He sent me information, invited me to an Ibogaine conference, the very first one ever. And I went, and it's just, I was like, we can do this in Mississippi.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping we'll have the bill in January. I've gotten great support by our leadership in the legislature, and we had a hearing here. I really to educate, especially our citizens. It's nice to have these hearings. The news picks it up, but we heard from Mississippi veterans who have gone to Mexico.
Oh wow!
I'm talking about
real some local boys,
war heroes.
Yeah.
I was there. It was absolutely insane.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And to hear their story.
And the two sisters, like,
oh my goodness. Yes. I mean, but we heard just amazing stories about how this process and this natural compound drug has changed their life. And just a complete 180. I mean, they went from addiction, trauma, suicidal, through the process, and then made whole on the other side.
Yeah.
No withdrawals.
Yeah.
And Stanford's done a study, and it's like the brain is recovered. 80% show no signs. The withdrawals are gone for 80% of the people who do this.
Yeah.
So if it's a Schedule I drug, so it's not easy. But if we can do the FDA trials, we can use Schedule I drug. It's in a clinical setting. People who have tried other methods to curb their addiction, to get over their addiction, they're at the end of their rope. There is another option. This is a real option.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so to be administered by, I'm hoping to here in Jackson, maybe you, MMC, would help do it. But you're partnering with a clinical or a hospital setting, and these trials be set up. We're gonna partner with Texas. FDA trial applications are not cheap, but if we can do one application and that be a multiple state partnership, we can do more with less.
Right. Yeah.
So our money, Texas putting $50 million in.
Yeah. They've already done it. They've already passed the bill.
They passed the bill.
Yeah. And so when will this be up for discussion in our state?
January.
Okay.
I plan on bringing the bill out in January.
Okay. And have you already put feelers out with some of your other colleagues to kind of see how it's going to be received? What's the general feedback?
We're going to do Senator Harkins on the Senate side is going to drop a bill on their side. I'm going to drop a bill on our side, and we hope to push this thing through. We're going to have the veterans come back who've done the Ibogaine, and some of the nurses have done it and administered it. They're going to come back to the Capitol. We're going to go around and because so much of it is just educational. I'd never had heard of Ibogaine until that podcast. So So, and just if there are questions, if there are doubts, let's have the conversation in the Capitol with these people who've done it.
Yeah. So do you know a little bit about like spiritual awakening recovery, kind of psychic change recovery? It might be mutual support groups like 12-step programs or anything. Have you studied or looked at any of those? Do you know how they kind of work? Like NA, AA, those types of programs?
Yeah, sure have.
So most of us are really, really involved. That's how we've gotten sober. That's how we stay sober and continue to do most of our work in that kind of arena. And so there's a lot of people that we deal with that are very, very fired up about recovery, love psychic change recovery, love spiritual awakening recovery, but have a huge reticence, a lot of friction with anything that might be. When we use the word psychedelic, we all think about running through cow fields, picking shrooms, skipping school. Right. That's what we all did. And so there's a stigma within the recovery community, which is a horrible place to have a stigma. You'd think that we would be open-minded as we were when we were buying street drugs and drinking, pitcher beer at the bar, right? Yeah. But as we get sober, and a lot of us all of a sudden become closed-minded to what might be available. So there's a huge, huge stigma in the recovery community. Do you have any tactics, ways, hopes to kind of get those people on board? Because that's where most of the recovery is existing right now. Like that's where most of the people who would benefit from something like Ibogaine are spending their time right now. They're in these circles, they're in these spaces, and they might not be getting the results they need. So if you're going to get people to do it, those are the people you're going to be talking to. How are you going to convince somebody like that taking a psychedelic, which is a big red flag, could be helpful to them? No,
and I get it. And I had to get over that too. I'm a conservative Republican lawmaker. Yeah. And for me to bring up psychedelics in the legislature, I'm thinking people are going to look at me and
crazy.
And, what is wrong with him? Yeah. But after meeting people who have suffered from PTSD, who've self-medicated, and then having many had nowhere else to turn to. Everything else has failed. Who go through this process, and this is not. I mean, you're almost paralyzed for 24 hours going through this process. You're right. Many not people, no,
you're not raving. You're not bar hopping.
No, there's no neon lights. Yeah.
You don't enjoy this process. Right. And when they come out the other side and can say no, can be with their wife, can love their children. Yeah. And when you meet them and hear their stories, and it took that with me. And that's why when I say we're going to do this at the Capitol, I want these real world people, Mississippians who had to leave the country to be treated. When my fellow lawmakers meet them, we had a dinner the night before the hearing and invited all the people that were speaking to meet with every committee member there and to get to know them, not in a hearing setting, but on a personal level. And it was something like a spiritual awakening. It was spiritual that night to meet and have a conversation with these people. I mean, there were tears. I mean, it was special.
Yeah. Are you getting any friction from your colleagues? Are there any people? Are they open minded, or some people who've already made up their minds say we don't want to do this kind of thing?
I've met no one that said we don't want to do it. Yeah. After the hearing, Senator Blackwell, who's been great, and he said, "Look, Creekmore, everybody you brought here to this hearing was pro Ibogaine. Why didn't you bring somebody from the other side?" Right. I said, "Senator, I can't find anybody."
Right. Yeah.
And once they hear about it, this is a real positive method to treat people.
In one of your articles, you mentioned Mississippi passing, I think it's the right to choose or the right to, but I don't know the name of the law or the bill, but it's basically when somebody would like to try some experimental medication for other stuff, cancer treatments.
That's right.
Why is something like Ibogaine just not already grandfathered? I don't even know the terminology, but why is it just not?
Because of Schedule I, mainly. Okay. But we did, and we passed a bill for allowing someone, again, they've tried all the other options, the option to try some experimental treatments for cancer or, some ailment. Yeah. And they're responsible for paying for it if their insurance wouldn't, and they would not hold the doctor accountable if something was to go wrong in a standard setting. we passed that bill out of the House. And so, to your point, this Ibogaine somewhat applies as, we've passed something already that gives people the right to try to heal themselves. Here's another method. Because it's Schedule I, we have to do the FDA trial process.
Gotcha.
So to be legal.
Gotcha.
I think it's interesting to point out, and so many, the veteran community has really used this Ibogaine, but the very people who fought for this country can't be treated in this country. The very people that are suffering from PTSD or TBI, traumatic brain injury, have to leave the country they fought for to be treated. And so I just think it's our legislators' responsibility to make this available.
Absolutely. Why do you think that so many people of our veterans are using this or attracted to this as a solution? Like, what is it about their experience or their background or their needs that makes them candidates for this rather than just, NFL players or ex-WWF players? Because they've, wrestlers or whoever else has had a lot of, TBI or drug issues. What is it that makes a veteran so likely to seek a solution like this?
Well, I think the veteran culture, once they started, their buddies got it. Everybody we talked to from Mississippi was helped by a veteran group who has already experienced Ibogaine. And so it's kind of that culture that, hey, let me take you to Mexico. Vets group will help pay for your solution. And so I think it's that culture that and it's just kind of grown from there. Really, since the Joe Rogan thing, we talked to 2 different clinics in Mexico, and they said after Joe Rogan, it just exploded with veterans.
Yeah.
We've been at war for a long time in this country.
Hadn't we? Golly.
And veterans are 60% more likely to commit suicide. And so very much like the opioid issues in our country, we've been at war so long, and there's so many veterans, and it's really touched every corner of our state. A veteran who's suffered or has issues, and family life has fallen apart after they come back from the war. And so I think just that the numbers are so great that, it's just brought awareness to it.
We ask so much of our soldiers. We ask so much of them to go over there, to do all the training, to go over there and put their life on the line day in and day out for a long period. I mean, police officers here, ambulance drivers, firefighters, they put a lot on the line too, but they've got church on the weekends. They've got to get home to their families. They get to see each other. They get a little bit of community in between. Our soldiers, they just go over there for the 6-month, 9-month, year, however long it is, and give it all. And then you come back and you're like, okay, we just want you to step back into civilization. Never mind that car backfiring. Never mind these things you're seeing on the news. Don't worry about it. Just get back to work and kind of let the warrior mentality go. And then you have the opioid problem where they're all injured. They've all got shrapnel in their knee, or they've all got something. So you've got this double whammy of the trauma from what the physical, psychological trauma they've been through, but then you've got this addiction dog chasing them. Yeah. And they're just whooped.
Well, and the Wall Street Journal had an article not too long ago about combat cocktails that the government's giving veterans to help them try to recover, and it just makes it worse. There's self-medication and all. But Ben Bush from Mississippi, a veteran, I'm talking about a true hero, couldn't adapt when he got back, couldn't keep a job. He found his life mentally was better when he contracted to go back to Afghanistan and work as a contractor, in the military. Yeah. It helped him cope at home, but it didn't help it with his home life. So when he did come back, eventually did the Ibogaine, and just made a huge difference for him. But it's our veterans. We've put together some task force. You mentioned law enforcement, first responders. We're actually studying the psychological effects of their jobs and what it has on them, and trying to get them, solutions to help them cope as well. So It's real, and it's in. I'm glad that we're now studying all this, and legislators are really paying attention to it.
Mm-hmm. And the worst thing we can do is just say, no, I don't want to hear about this kind of contempt prior to investigation. Like I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to think about it. Let's just do the same old thing we did last decade for the same old results. I mean, we might not have to do everything, but we should take a look at stuff. We should say, does this work? Is there something we can do to help more people, faster, cheaper, better, that kind of thing?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like it's a legislator's responsibility
Absolutely
to look at everything out there to help people.
Yeah.
I mean, we've made opioids available to everybody in the country and everybody in the state of Mississippi, and so we need to make other things available that help curb this.
How do you feel about the use of widespread like Suboxone and methadone as being, because that's kind of been the gold standard in how we treat opioid use disorder right now, is besides the 12-step work or psychic change work or whatever, it's normally here's another pill for your pill problem. How do you feel about that? Or is it filled a gap that needed to be filled and we should start to phase it out? Or do you see it as we should continue to be the gold standard in our opioid use solution?
Well, I think you should try everything to overcome. And so I think it has its place. Mm-hmm. From what I've found, it's not the solution for most people. It just...
What are you seeing?
You're still stuck with it. I mean, you're still having to take the naloxone.
Yep. And
from what I've studied, it's 30% effective with people. Does that sound about right?
I mean, I'm in the field. I know people that most of the time what I hear from people who've been on a long time is they want to get off of it.
Yes.
They don't want to be on it. They feel
That's right.
They feel like they're caught between two worlds.
That's right.
They're sober, but they're not really fit. But then there's a lot of health issue. I mean, there's new lawsuits now coming out about the Suboxone, where you've got the teeth issue and this other. I mean, there's some now. I see it. There's going to be a repeat, just like with the opioid settlement. There's going to be a repeat with the Suboxone settlement.
Right.
So it just kind of it seems like the pill to fix a pill story just kind of continues to be the same story.
That's why Ibogaine to me is so attractive. Mm-hmm. A one-time procedure, and it's maybe not for everybody, but if you've gone through the other processes and you haven't gotten the results you need, let's have another option.
Yeah.
There's the other part of it where big pharma's involved. Mm-hmm. They want you on naloxone and want you to take it for the rest of your life.
Some of the same companies that are doing they're paying the opioid settlement money with the Suboxone money.
Yes.
I mean, some of it's the same. It's the same serpent eating its own tail thing.
Right.
It's the same business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what would you see, how would a Mississippian who is suffering from addiction or suffering from trauma or suffering from some of these long-lasting issues that would be interested in getting an Ibogaine treatment, if it was all done, what would that process look like? Like, what's the Cinderella story for, like, hey, it's approved, it's good to go? Would it be a situation where they'd go to show up at UMMC? Are you seeing it like they go through their psychiatrist and like put in their name in a hat to say, maybe I'm a good candidate for it? Are they self-selecting? What do you see?
I see it being administered by the clinic or hospital that partners with us to do it. So a UMMC would have it. They'd take the application. Does this person qualify for the FDA trial? And they'd go through the trial.
Yeah.
The FDA trial is important because you can use the Ibogaine now. Of course, there will be some people who would be given a placebo, and it's part of the trials. So not everyone would be treated with the actual Ibogaine, but that's part of it. I mean, that's
right.
If we can move Ibogaine down to instead of Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3. Then the FDA trials become even more easier, and we become it's more effective and we can treat more people.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but basically the Schedule 1 means there is no therapeutic use. This has no place in anything but a crack house. Like, this is a bad drug. Schedule 1.
Yes, to be Schedule 1, according to federal regulations, has to be extremely addictive and have no medical value.
No medical value.
No medical value.
Right.
And Ibogaine's not addictive, and Ibogaine has tremendous medical value.
Right. So just based on those two things, regardless of how effective it is,
right.
it shouldn't be a Schedule 1
it was the Nixon administration, and we talked about stigma. all psychedelics kind of got caught up in this, and it may have been not really more tied into marijuana, but that administration just took this group of psychedelics and said, let's make these Schedule 1. There's without really studying them.
Yeah. Ibogaine. Yeah, I'd never heard of it either. I think Joe Rogan's somebody sent it to me, and they were like, man, you got to check this out, listen to it. And my first reaction was, I don't trust a drug dealer. Like, I don't care what they're selling, but I don't trust a drug dealer. Yeah. I don't believe in a pill for a pill. I don't believe, and I was just no, because I'm of that psychic change, spiritual awakening, recovery. That's my thing. Like, I put in a lot of work for this. I've been to thousands of meetings. I've done a lot of step work. I've done a lot of therapy. I mean, I don't want to brag, but like the Marines of freaking recovery. Like, we put the work in, and to have somebody like, oh, here's this thing that can just fix you. I was like, I don't want to hear about it. But what I have also learned from my recovery is like, there's nothing worse than contempt prior to investigation. Like, that's what kept me hurt for so long and kept my family hurt for so long, was this idea of like, I'm not going to take a look at something. And so anyways, I listened to the podcast, and besides Brian Hubbard's smooth ass voice, I mean, it was so, but hearing the story of, I mean, the guys who had gone over and gotten the treatments and who was backing it, now an ex-governor of Texas. And and Brian Hubbard's not just some rollout of, Office Max lost his job, decided to, he's an
accomplished
attorney. He's super. Yeah. He was running the department of I guess it was, I can't remember what it was, where he was deciding, who gets the money for disability acts. I can't remember what
in Kentucky.
Yeah. So he's an accomplished social worker. He's been doing it for a long time. And to hear them talk for 2.5 hours in that platform, it was like, oh, wow, this changes everything for me. And I went immediately from a antagonistic, I don't want to hear about it, to like, this thing needs to be talked about. This thing needs to be spread around.
And then again, to meet people who've gone through it and who were literally at the end of their rope and had no other options.
Yeah.
And for them to be a Mississippian who you might see at the grocery store, and he's living a normal life now, and he's been through such hell prior to, and it's just this hope.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the numbers, it's so effective. We have to study this.
Yeah, and I mean, drugs just already they're not always 100% effective for all people. I think people hear about one or two horror stories about whether it was administered improperly, and so somebody had an adverse reaction, or if it might have not even been with a qualified whoever, but it wasn't the Ibogaine experience that you'd want for the typical person to go through. They hear about this horrible thing, like, oh, all bets are off. Somebody had a bad reaction, but like we see that nowadays with every drug out there is not 100% effective for 100% of people.
No, I mean, cancer, radiation treatment. I mean, you go through harmful side effects to hopefully be cured.
Yeah. Even simple things like antibiotics or opioids. There's certain things that they're allergic to it, and it doesn't help, doesn't work. In fact, it hurts them. So that shouldn't be, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater just because there is some. So what else besides Ibogaine exploration or kind of getting on with Texas stuff, what else do you hope to see happen over your tenure and with the, I mean, let's be real, like Mississippi and all the states have got a huge opportunity. There's a big pile of money.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of money that needs to be hopefully spent to improve the situation, whether it's opioid abatement or even just improving the lives for people who have been affected by it. I mean, there's so much stuff we could do with the money. What are some things that you're hoping to get done?
Well, we have a lot of health issues in our state, and we've had them for a long time, and drugs are just part of it. And so what I would like to see is starting, because it's a generational thing to me. We need to start with our children, and so many, the family breakdown affects so many of them. And if we can educate children on healthy lifestyles, which includes saying no to drugs or eating healthy, we lead the country in infant mortality.
That's a shame. Yeah.
And so there's so many. So to me, we got to start with the younger generation and help mentor them on a healthy lifestyle, which includes a mental checkup, a physical checkup, get them the help they need and the education they need on how to lead a healthy life. And so we're looking at some mentorship, some things we can maybe do in the schools to help educate them on that and give our children more of a fighting chance. Because when they get to our age,
pretty set by this point.
That's right.
This is it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things we're looking at, and I actually got a hearing in 2 weeks on infant mortality, and it's going to be interesting to see. We got a lot of data. I hadn't seen it all yet, but where we have healthcare deserts, and how can we address this, and because we need population. We need people in Mississippi, healthy people working, contributing.
So I'm actually part of an organization that applied for some of the money.
Good.
My wife and I run a Find and Recovery Homes. We got a sober living business, and we've got 60 beds. We keep about 50 clients in and out, and we are on the front lines trying to help people stay sober. But we're trying to supply affordable sober living, and it can be really, really difficult to do that. What they can pay and what they can afford, and still keep a decent roof over their head. So I've been following. I've learned a lot about it. One of the things that was, I wouldn't say frustrating, but it was a little difficult is as we're going through the application process, they wanted to be very clear on what we were doing for opioid abatement.
Yeah.
And the thing is, in our addiction, it's like it touches everything, and like if somebody has used a pill one time or used a pill, years ago versus I'm shooting fentanyl right now, there's a big spectrum of what opioid use disorder looks like. Is it a primary addiction? Is it a tertiary addiction? Meaning like later on down. But even then, there's people who are affected that aren't even in our line of work that are affected by this stuff that have never put a pill in their body, that have their dad is now gone in penitentiary because he's selling drugs or is doing stuff. So I think it was frustrating is the money is there and it could do so much good. How can it go from this a black and white getting people off opioids to getting into getting in front of it? Like saying maybe could you see some of this spent at job training? Could some of this be spent in just other avenues that are not necessarily here's Suboxone? Because that's another frustrating thing is they want data-driven stuff. So Suboxone, Suboxone, MAT. It's like you can't make any more Suboxone, y'all. Everybody who's got it once it's got it.
Yeah.
So could you see some of this money be used for things that are not unrelated, but are at least more kind of opioid adjacent? Like, what about the families who have been wrecked by it that are not on the pill?
Yes, the money can be used.
Okay.
I mentioned a mentorship type setting, and this is part of that effort where children they're mentors in the school, and children can go talk to these people, or can, if the mentor sees issues starting to develop and can recognize signs of that may be suicidal or maybe signs of addiction, can get that person help sooner before it's too late.
Yeah.
So there are organizations. This council, has a huge responsibility to spend that money correctly. Getting to know people like you and seeing what y'all do, which I've talked to several, and it's just amazing. It's amazing the good people that are out there that could really use some help with this money.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people doing a lot of good work, man. It's really cool to see the recovery community, what it's grown in the past 10 years. Because when I first tried to get sober, there really wasn't a whole lot more besides, a few treatment centers, a few hospitals, and then 12-step programs. And that was pretty much it. And now there's so many different resources out there, whether it's different therapists that are given more addiction-trained, help, or if it's other groups like Magnolia Wellness and Recovery. We're friends with those. Jody Penton, those guys have been on a couple times talking about what they do. But they're out there just offering peer support to people who are trying to get sober. They're just doing the deal, doing what the state government or what the hospitals could be doing if they had the resources. They're just out raising money and doing it on their own. And to see these organizations spring up, it's really, it really brings a lot of hope where there hadn't been hopes. It's really cool to see.
It really is. And there's so many of them that have gone through it themselves and now are trying to help other people.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. And again, we mentioned that stigma, but it's okay. It's good for a community to have a place where people can get recovery.
Right. Yeah.
And whereas maybe in the past, I don't want that in my neighborhood, or I don't want that in my town. Send it somewhere else. No, we need it. There's not a corner of Mississippi that has not been affected by opioids or drugs.
Right now, what we're seeing, I think it's making headlines in Mississippi. It's been growing, but the unhoused population. We've got a lot of people who are out on the streets, a lot of people who don't have a place to go, and you're seeing a lot of. I do a lot of work. I really enjoy going down to not Stew Pot. Where's Shower Power? Shower Power is a downtown organization that passes out food and first aid and bags to unhoused people once a week. And I like to go down there when I want to feel good about myself, whatever. Go down there. It's really, really cool. But I tell you, every time I go down there, I'm just amazed at how much mental health and addiction stuff is just rampant. Like, I mean, you can't go talk to some of those people and not understand, like, all of them are either dealing with some kind of psychosis, depression, something's going on. There's a lot of mental health issues. So I think when we drive by a traffic light and we see somebody holding a sign up, we're like, why didn't that guy just get a job? Why didn't that? And that's easy. I think it too. Even after I hang out there, I think it like, why can't that guy get a job? But if you stop and talk to him for 5 minutes, you're like, I know why this guy can't get a job, because he thinks aliens are coming, you know, or he can't stop putting fentanyl up his nose, whatever it is. So are you working on anything? Are you seeing anything that might offer some solutions to this? Is, I think, part of the problem of the opioid or the addiction problem, but just the massive need for housing.
The housing one's different. I mean, it's just it takes so much money, and you know, we're a poor state. We're trying. Well, the family's so important, and the commitment process to get someone mental treatment. We have changed that over the past 3 or 4 years and made it a whole lot easier for you to get a family member the help they need. We've made it a whole lot easier for law enforcement to recognize mental health issues and get that person to the help they need rather than put them in a jail. We've passed a bill where every law enforcement officer will receive mental health first aid training. And all this does is it's one, for their protection, two, for our citizens' protection who suffer from mental health issues. And so they can recognize how to diffuse a situation and what options are available to get these people treatments. So we're trying, you know, we're looking at educating and understanding people who are first responders who are out there. And hopefully that will help curb the mental health issues in our state and prevent people from becoming homeless as, you know, from a mental health issue.
Right.
As far as the housing goes, that's a tough one. We looked at using Medicaid for housing for mental health people, and they've got a great program in Tennessee, and we're trying to.
What do you like about it?
Well, it's Medicaid pays for their housing situation, and it's different depending on your mental health issue. If you're a lower level, it's a lower payment, and there are privately owned homes where these groups, the community mental health centers, come in and work the groups, but they live in this home. The family members may supplement their income so they can live there, but Medicaid pays for it. We don't have that in the state of Mississippi. Medicaid, we spend a lot of money on Medicaid. I think it's the 5th highest budget area in our government. We tried Medicaid expansion; the legislature wouldn't pass it. So it's a heavy lift to get anything Medicaid passed. We're going to look at it again, but it would provide homes for some of these people, and treatments come with it.
Are there other states that are so opposed to Medicaid as we are? Are we kind of leading the charge in that, or is that kind of a general?
Yeah, we're 1 of 10.
1 of 10. So there's 9 others. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever see Mississippi as maybe, are we moving towards that possibility, or is
I thought we passed it in the House, and there was a lot of momentum, and then Trump and the big beautiful bill, which it's kind of, we're waiting to see how that shakes out and what that does with Medicaid. There's going to be some I think some federal cuts that we're looking at and seeing how that will affect Medicaid. I'm a proponent for Medicaid expansion. I mean, I think it's very important, especially in our state where people are so unhealthy, and just give them some coverage. You know, the people that would benefit from Medicaid expansion are working people in our state.
Right.
They're not sitting at home, and they're not.
Right.
So I think it'd be very beneficial, especially when you're leading the charge in the most unhealthy state in the country. We
get a
doing
bunch
the
of
same
awards for being the worst.
Yeah.
We do.
Yep.
We do. I wanted to ask a question about you're talking about the mental health crisis. One of the problems that I've seen with it is that people. I had a close friend suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. He lived with me for years. Then he wouldn't be able to stay with us because he would get off his meds or get bad, and then he would come back. And this was like a 15-year period where he was bouncing around from friend's house to friend's house or on the streets. And the thing is it's like it doesn't matter how many resources we really had, because he came from a family that loved him, and they were paying his way. They were sending us money. It wasn't a matter of resources. It was a matter of nobody knew what to do. Like nobody had any idea what. There was just no solution, because if you get him on meds, he didn't want to take them.
Right.
And so it's like kind of this just storm that just there is nothing. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm getting at, other than I think sometimes we can oversimplify it and we can think that it's just a monetary issue, or it might be, we should have health care available. We should have money. But at the end of the day, we're talking about one of the most baffling illnesses, one of the most baffling things out there, mental health. And it's like there are no easy solutions sometimes.
No, you're right. I mean, many times it's just managing the mental illness. It's not curing it. I mean, there may not be a cure, and it's tough on families, but I think families are the key. Mm-hmm. And I just cannot imagine. My mother suffered from some mental issues, and she has dementia now. But without my father and family, looking out for her, and it would be tough.
Wouldn't happen.
I mean, So that to me that's so key. Yeah. And understanding and having the conversation that mental illness is an issue in our state. Let's be compassionate. Let's get people, or try to help people that we can.
So what can we do, us as podcast hosts and listeners out there that are listening in today that want to support what you're talking about, besides vote for good people like you and to send me money? What else? What else can they do to help further this great work that's going on? Because at the end of the day, you want to help people, and there's resources out there to do it. So it's obviously now there's just an action that needs to take place. What is that action? Yeah.
Well, if you know your legislator and you care about treatment, ask them to vote for the Ibogaine, and ask them to support mental health in Mississippi. Ask them, pay attention, just like you have been, to the opioid settlement money, because there are cities and counties that have money,
right, and
don't know what to do with it right now, and so we need that could help you. But Jackson, Hines County, Union County, where I'm from, Lee County. And that's why I'm going to offer some guidelines to these cities and counties. Let's get it to people like you and this podcast that are helping people.
Yeah, man. A little dream come true having you on today. Thank you so much for your time.
Y'all are kind. Y'all are too kind.
It's good. We want to get your message out there. We're just really, really pumped to have you on, and also the work that you're doing, something that we can stand behind. And although I've not always been in total agreement with it, I'm getting warmer to it, and I'm just glad to have a champion like you out there doing the heavy lifting, so me and my friends can benefit from it, because that's what we're getting at the end.
Well, at the end of the day, I think we all want Mississippi to be as great as it can be.
Absolutely.
And whether that's through Ibogaine or whether it's through Biloxi or whatever we got to do, let's do it. Let's have the conversation. Let's put everything on the table, and let's keep moving forward. Yes. And let's keep loving each other. Give people the help they need.
Amen, brother. I love it. I love it. Well, anything else you want to say to our listeners?
I kind of said at the beginning, I didn't choose to be in this space. And I think I was led to be in this space. Yeah. And, and I thought back on it. There was a time in my life well, my father was, it's a family practice, small town doctor, worked 80 hours a week, always on call. I never saw him, missed half my baseball games or football games because he's serving other people. And we go out to eat at a restaurant, and somebody comes up to our table and with a big sore on their arm said, "Dr. Creekmore, we're eating. Can you tell me?" I was like, so I became somewhat jaded to the healthcare industry growing up because it took my father away from him. But I, now looking back on that period and all the people he's helped, who all now can vote for me, but not, it was part of my process and my journey.
Yeah.
And saw what the servant leadership that he provided and healthy living and just it affecting our family and my childhood growing up. And now here I am, chairman of public health.
Yeah.
And so, I've embraced it. I'm trying to look at things, how we can all work together to make healthcare better in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Got a lot to work with.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for the work you do. And anything you come back on, we'd love to get an update on down the road. I mean, talking about this stuff is important. So it's just really, 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 really great to have you on. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. And I promise you, I'd love to come back on, especially when we get into session.
Yeah.
Give y'all an update.
Yeah. You need us to ring some bells, man. Make some things happen.
Let's do it, baby. All right. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.